Hey guys, Deslater Magic here, and just in case you missed it, which, I mean, how? Seriously, how? There is some evidence that the next set after Amonkhet and Hour of Devastation might be called Atlazan. These images were included in an initial market research customer questionnaire survey type of thing, and without the context of the questions, we don't really know what they were trying to ask about. In other words, what was up in the air. If there was 10 questions about what did you like about the font, what do you like about the name Atlazan, what would you change, if you could think of a better name, what would it be? Okay, that means that the name Atlazan is up in the air. If they're just saying, what do you think about the characters, the direction they're facing, what do you think about the bottom part that says 15 card booster pack, does it stand out enough? Then guess what? It's probably called Atlazan. Now, it could just be a complete and utter inside joke at Wizards where they call everything Atlazan if it's a placeholder for, a name that they haven't thought up yet or that isn't public knowledge yet, because they knew they were releasing to thousands of people in the public in this survey, and eventually it might be seen by a Magic user. That sounds like a drug reference. A Magic player, not... I'm used to saying end users because I'm an IT guy. Guys, if you know a Magic user, there is help available. Call 1-800-I'm addicted to white mana. I couldn't say that. I can't get a clean recording of it. I can't. Anyway, moving on. Everybody saw that and the merfolk, what appears to be merfolk on the cover, and then Vraska, whatever. And they were like, okay, Atlazan, Atlantis, merfolk. It makes sense. Well, I'm not a history expert, but I don't ever remember mermaids and Atlantis being tied together. I mean, maybe in movies and sci-fi stuff and games, because why not? And Futurama. And actually, it was Atlanta in that case, not Atlantis. But I think in the actual writings about Atlantis, they never said mer people. In fact, I believe all the stories about it said it was above the water at the time, and then it sank into the water. So I guess if there's mermaids there now, great. But all the initial writings said that it was just normal people living above the ocean. So everybody just made that connection, but... a lot of people were commenting on the background artwork on the very top. Now, it's really, really faded, so let me just fix that for a second. Now that is some lazy photoshopping. Anyway, you can see that the top of that looks like some kind of ancient runes. Now, it's not really, really square and linear, so it's definitely not Egyptian. Plus, why would they do that twice in a row? A lot of people said it looked Mayan. Well, I have reason to believe that it looks Aztec. And I'm sure people are going to say what they always do. Oh, Mayan and Aztec. What's the difference? That's pretty much the same thing, right? Mm-hmm. Yeah, kind of like England and the US, pretty much the same thing. Two completely different peoples. Anyway, here's some Aztec artwork for comparison. So a lot of lines, a lot of 3D stuff, a lot of strong three-dimensional edges. It just looks like it. Plus, they were big into snakes and curvy stuff and vines, and that's what you see in the background there. I mean, they really liked lines and faces and a little bit of complexity. I mean, you could just get the overall style. You just look at it and you're like, yeah, I kind of get that. So I looked into the Aztec mythology and religion and everything and came across something very, very quickly. One of the number one biggest archaeological mysteries, / mythologies about the Aztec is where they actually came from. And I'm always interested in that because, part of everybody's where did we originally, come from when we settled here stories have got to be true. And some of them are pretty weird. A lot of people, it was passed down generation to generation. Everybody told everybody. So yeah, it might have gotten tweaked a little bit, but they're saying crazy stuff like, oh, we met with these people that lived under the ground and they told us where to settle. Somebody lived under the ground. Why would they make that up? So you gotta kind of wonder when somebody's, migrating from frickin' wherever, we'll just say Asia over to Alaska down to America. I have no idea. If whatever group that would be, makes up a story about where they used to live and why they came there and how they came about there, and it's totally weird, there's probably a little bit of truth in it. Well, according to Aztec legends and every piece of writing and everything, they came from a place called Aztlan, which I know I'm pronouncing that wrong, but that pronunciation key doesn't make a damn ounce of sense. I mean, if I was to pronounce it just straight Latin, which, hello, English, Latin language, write it correctly, thanks. Yeah, because people always do that. It should be Aztlan, with the accent over the A. Hey, the word's from the language Nahuatl, which I'm sure I'm pronouncing that correctly too. But legend states that that's the ancestral home of the Aztec peoples. So that's pretty wild. And like for real, they had like lists of different tribes and which groups, migrated from where and all that. And like originally they're from Mexico, then they moved there. But well, apparently one group called just the Azteca the word itself means people from Aztlan. So all the boring historians are like, oh, we're pretty sure it's a place in northwest Mexico or the southwest US. And then sci-fi authors are like, it's on another planet. So it's somewhere in the middle, probably. That's right. The moon. Just kidding. But honestly, most people agree that they aren't sure if it's purely mythological and they just made it up to sound cool, or if it's like, no, this is literally where we came from, we wrote it down. So according to the official map, it's honestly somewhere between like Idaho, California, and Texas. So, the whole freaking US just about. Gee, I wonder why they'd leave the mystical, amazing, astonishing world of freaking Idaho. I guess they just didn't like potatoes. Now, let me just throw this out there. If it was my ancestors and they were like somewhere around Idaho and they kept moving south and south and south, I would say probably as soon as we got to, I don't know, probably like Colorado, Utah, around there, I'd be like, you guys, it's getting a little warm, don't you think? Maybe we should stop. I'm not a global geographic expert because I don't think they even knew the Earth was round, but the pattern would suggest if we kept walking, it's gonna get hot as balls. Nope, they hit the Yucatan. It is like 110 frickin' degrees there. Okay, so somebody screwed up a little bit. It's just like, who the hell stopped in the Middle East and was like, we're good. We're not going to keep on walking. This seems fine to me. Or like Northern Africa. Everything wants to eat me and nothing grows. And it's 110 degrees. Let's live here. This seems fine. I'm tired of walking. Well, aren't the ones who hit Asia lucky? It's a little nicer there. Oh my God. I bet their descendants wish they had a time machine right about now. Go back 2,000 years, freaking slap them. Be like, what the hell's wrong with you? This is a crap place to live. Tell them keep on moving to France, man. They got beaches and actual weather. So to put the clues together, because I'm totally going to play armchair archaeologist or whatever the hell they call it. I don't own an armchair. I only own an office chair. I have a very small apartment. Dude, when people come over, I'm like, sit on the floor. I only have one chair. So Atlazan and Aztlan, honestly, if I were to just fix the name to make it slightly more pronounceable, I'd probably go with Atlazan. Plus, Atlazan versus Aztlan and then Atlazan versus Atlantis, it's pretty far away. Too many consonants changed. So I'm going to take a wild guess that Wizards is going to have it take place in basically Aztlan. Now, see, the one problem is that if it really is Idaho, Idaho's boring as hell. I already clearly lost those viewers. I'm going to keep taking a dump on Idaho. And the other problem is we know next to nothing about Aztlan. So it would be like a cool name to base it off of and a cool concept, but there's really no storyline. I mean, as far as I know, and maybe there is more to this, because like I said, I hate history and I suck at it. It's basically limited to, we came from there. The end. I've never seen anything describing it. I've never seen, anything other than like text saying, this is where we came from, this is the name of it. That's it. Not like, oh, it was filled with giants and monsters and it was magic and the clouds talked to us. Nope, none of that. Unless it wasn't in the one Wikipedia article I read. Now, there are like some cool names and stuff, but it's not typical for them to rip off actual place names. Like, I think Aztlan was technically supposed to be an island, and there was a lake around it called Lake of the Moon, or Medzilipan, or whatever. I cannot pronounce whatever the hell language this is. So would they really base this set on just a name, just like a theory of like an origin city name, and that's it? There is like no other mythology about it as far as I know. Maybe, if they just were like, let's make everything look Aztec. Their art looks cool. What's kind of Aztec-y? Oh, Aztlan. Well, by the way, joke's on them. The word Aztlan is not actually Nahuatl. It's like a super Mexicanized version because the accent is on the last syllable and Nahuatl only has accents on the second to the last syllable. So it's not originally in the Aztec language, it's actually Spanish. Eat it. Take that, wizards. Well, I guess the set's just gonna have to have mariachi bands y también muchos sombreros grandes. But hey, I'll take any excuse to bring tacos to F&M. Well, thanks for watching, guys. This has been quite literally the least accurate and worst historical documentary YouTube video ever made. Unofficially sponsored by Wikipedia. If I had to give my absolute final best estimation based on what Wizards usually does, it is going to be a horrible, historically inaccurate mashup of like old school pre-Aztec, what we know about that, like their history, which is nothing, mixed with a bunch of Aztec culture, honestly probably mixed with Mexican culture. They just don't give a crap. Have you seen what they've done to the other sets? They redefined the term loosely based. I mean, honestly, like the Middle Eastern sets were like stereotypes in card form, and the Japanese set wasn't much better. I mean, they were so offensive. I mean, oh my god. It made Aladdin look proper. So I can't wait for Wizards to take a gigantic dump on Aztec culture, which I know next to nothing about, so I'll just assume it's all true. I'll see you guys next video.